Well, interesting week on the PGA Tour coming up here because Keith Mitchell, man, had this thing won last week in Mississippi, and now he comes back to Utah. The first time in Utah in a very long time in the PGA Tour, the Black Desert Championship. He's not the only one who maybe has some demons. Beau Hossler lost to Kevin Yu in a playoff. What does it all mean this week in Utah? We are here to talk about it on the roundtable. Chris Brees, Matt Delvecchio, Benny Betts. I cannot wait to hear your analogies about how Beau Hossler maybe has ruined his career.
Oh, Beau does not know. Beau, terrible stuff. I mean, honestly, look, you got to give him some credit. He stood up and hit some great shots on Saturday and Sunday while in contention, while me and many others expected him to fold well before he did. But the problem was, every time he had a good shot, he followed it with something diabolical. I mean, a terrible three-putt, I think, on Saturday. And then on Sunday, as you saw, gets himself right there in the lead and snap hooks it on 18 behind a tree. Then spends a couple of hours trying to get a free drop, which we knew he never was going to get. In fact, it was lucky in the end he got into the playoff and was then obviously unable to match Kevin Yu's birdie on 18 there. So there are some demons for those two, and yet they sit there near the favourites for the Black Desert Championship.
Let's get into those odds then, shall we? I mean, because Matt, you look at these odds boards, last week it looked a lot like this. Keith Mitchell goes way up in odds. He's the favorite head over heels at plus 1,600. Seamus Power, a usual suspect last week, he's up there. Kurt Kitayama might be the surprise here, but let's begin with Hossler and with Mitchell. So how do they respond? I mean, this could go any way for either of these two guys, Matt. They could win this week. They could miss the cut.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is to realize who should be more down in the dumps. Should Keith Mitchell be more down in the dumps with not making the playoff? Should Beau Hossler be madder with himself by making the playoffs and then falling apart? Like, I think both sides have some sort of optimism out of this. I think Beau Hossler definitely is a little bit happier. I know it was ugly, but at least he made the playoff and gave himself a chance. So you really want to understand where their mentality's at. I mean, both of them are very safe with their tour card. Hossler's at 85th in the FedEx Cup standings. Mitchell's at 77. So they're both trying to make that next step into the top 70, get themselves into the signature events. So they got a lot to work on, but I think Mitchell's a little bit more mad at himself than Beau Hossler after this week.
Mitchell is just mad in general after what happened there, as I said. Like, you know what? You got to give him some credit, again, trying to win. That first putt on the 18th was to win the tournament. He had a crack at it. He gave it a run. So there's something in that. But then the next putt back, he just looked uncomfortable on it. And honestly, I thought they were both going to miss. I mean, I thought Hossler was going to miss his 3-footer too and just hand it to Kevin Yu the way they were coming down the stretch there. But terrible putt, that last putt. It was, it was a shame because he had played well, as I said, throughout the weekend. Mitchell before that. And yeah, look, this is a battle of their intellect in some forms, right? How can they get themselves mentally back up after that sort of punishment? Do you just sit there and be able to focus on all the positives? Hey, we were in the lead, in contention, 72 holes, had a chance to win. I'm playing great golf, especially going to a new course where no one else has really played. So you're going to a place where it's not like, 17, 25 other guys have an advantage on you because they've played well there before. You're really going on, form lately rather than course form. So they should feel good about that. But is that nagging feeling just there in the back, tick, tick, tick? Like, if we get back in contention, is it going to be a problem again? I worry for them, I do. I just think that the demons at this time of year might be a little strong.
I do.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, I do think there's a little stress on them. Mitchell's 32, Beau Hossler's 29. They've had good careers. They have both had significant money in the official standings. Beau Hossler's won 12 mil. Mitchell's at 15 mil. Is Hossler in his peak 29? Is Mitchell already had his peak at 32? I think both would argue, hey, the best is yet to come. So I think there's the pressure there of, yes, I want to get into these standings. Yes, Beau, I want to finally win. Keith's only won once. The peak question is coming into play. And when do you peak? It's got to be FedEx Cup fall. These guys got to take advantage. That's why we see them at the top of the odds boards. So I think the pressure is on them right now. Hey, these are the events I need to get. These are the times that I need to really come and shine because I need to prove to myself and everyone else that I'm ready to go next season. And Beau's the biggest guy. Like I said, 29. He came into the league with so much hype. He's underperformed. So when is he going to get that win? Will he get that win? There's a lot of pressure on both of them.
Multiple top 10, multiple US Opens as a teenager as well. Like, this was a kid that was the stud in college way back when. and hasn't really look. He's had a fine career. He's made a lot of money, done pretty well, but we're judged on wins, aren't we? We're judged on getting it done and closing. And unfortunately for him, there is a litany of times where when he's been in the mix, he's let it slip. He needs one of those to turn around. And honestly, like you said, Matty, like he's in form right now. So you got to strike now. It's going to be a lot harder to do it come early next season. Come try if you get into a signature event, if you can push forward, like those are going to be harder to do it. He's got to hit while the iron's hot. Both of them need to carry on that form. If they don't, I think that their form might fall away from here. Well, they really do need to step up again this week.
That's why it's a fascinating case study, Ben, because how often do we get in the extremist mentality mode? Let's face it, we do, where we think someone has demons. We're already talking about it potentially with both these guys right now. Many people didn't think Xander Schauffele could get over his major championship demons.
Don't remind me.
No, a lot of us didn't.
Yeah.
Think about Tommy Fleetwood. We're still talking about his PGA Tour win demons. We're starting to talk about that with Cameron Young, who's incredibly young.
Yep.
So these two guys, I don't want to be extreme about this, but whether it's this week or next month or this next year, how they respond to these situations could say a lot. They clearly have a lot of talent. They clearly know how to get in contention. Does this week just completely destroy their mentality, Ben, is my question, because they don't need to win this week. They don't need to be top 5 this week, but if we don't see them on the leaderboard in this next year, back to your point, did they peak? Is there something in their mind? Because every player handles this stuff differently, and you have no idea how they're going to respond to it until it actually happens.
The great players will take this and actually dissect it.
And we don't know if these guys are that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The great players will admit to themselves, something was different. Something changed in me when I got into that situation. Mm-hmm. Now let's find out what it was and let's address it. See, if you can learn from it, if you can recognize, okay, my heart rate went up or it went down or I didn't concentrate or whatever it was, if you can figure that out, then you can address it and you can learn from the mistake. My issue with Hostler is it seems that he's always doing this and not necessarily learning yet. Keith just seems like he's so casual and cashmere, Keith, that I'm not necessarily sure. Like he admitted afterwards he didn't even pay attention to the putt rolling past. He forgot where he was for a second. He kind of just sort of spaced out and went into auto mode. That's what he can learn from. Okay, take a breath in that moment, step back, read the putt, be ready, go again. So he can learn quickly. I don't know what Bo's situation is because it keeps happening. And as I said, we know he's got the talent because he hit so many good shots during the week. But then when it was really crunch time, or when he knew where he was in the tournament, it went backwards. So, the first thing for him would be maybe never look at a leaderboard. Like, maybe Bo just needs to never look at a leaderboard and start there.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting because, go ahead and finish your thought, Matt, if you want to.
No, I was just going to add, we need to understand also how big this week is to where their potential is. These guys are going to be on tour for a while. Do they need to win this weekend in FedEx Cup Fall to get them to that next step to be like, hey, I'm a guy who can go win signatures. I'm a guy who can go win majors? Yes. Do they need a win this week for their longevity on tour? No. So it's really understanding what their potential will be. And that's kind of why I was saying earlier with Bo's peak. If he already peaked or he's about to peak, it's coming now. So if you want to be a top guy on tour, if Bo Hollister wants to live up to the hype, Keith Mitchell wants to really get into that top 50 conversation, if you're dreaming about majors and Ryder Cups and President's Cups, like, yes, you need to perform right now in this field when you are hot. If you are okay with that, but Keith's like, hey, I'm gonna have a good career, like I don't need a win now, more lackadaisical about it, then sure. So I think I agree with you. This week is very important to see what their potential could be, but obviously it's not the end all be all. They'll be.
Matt's nailed it there, Chris. The situation is, where do they want to get to?
Yeah.
How important is it to them? Right? Like if you're a hungry animal who wants to win on tour and wants to prove yourself, then this week is a big one for them. Mm-hmm. And again, maybe they don't win, but they're up there again. If they just sort of let this peter out, I lost last week, I didn't play this well, that sort of shows a lack of that killer instinct, a lack of that mentality. So they have that choice to make if they want to be that guy or chase it this week or not. Now, the good news is, in a week like this, with all those odds up where they are, as bettors, you can spread the wealth here, right? You can
right.
spread it. You can bet smaller unit sizes on Keith and Bo, and then pick some longer shots, which we'll get to in a second. I know, Matty, you and I both have guys that are higher odds than the ones you see on the screen here. So you can sort of hedge your bets if you do think they're going to stay in form and still put a little on them without having to be all in on them. That's the good news with the odds at this week.
It's interesting because these two players are trying to respond well and get in the winner's circle, for the first or second time in their career. They're trying to become what Daniel Berger has already kind of proven in his career. And he's the other big name here this week, Matt. We know he's coming back from injury. It's a long road. He's won before. We know he can be a bigger name. We know he can get hot. And he's a player that people are looking at. Is he the best value in this field right now? Because his number started high and it's going down and down and down.
Yeah,
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in first here because I want to say he's my long shot for the week.
He's
absolutely my long shot.
So he started at plus 5,000 2 days ago.
Yeah, I'm going to give him some love and say Daniel Berger's a long shot before Matty gets in, because we'll see if Matty loves him as much as I do. But at plus 5,000, I think he's a great crack because he played well last week for most part. Had a little stumble, when he got near contention. A couple of, I think it was 3 bogeys in a row, which was a little disconcerting. But more importantly, he said that the back injury that he had for so many years is gone. So he has no excuse anymore. He's 4-time winner, proven winner. You're not going to see odds like this on Daniel Berger much longer because he was the guy I said to watch in the fall. He's going to keep playing well. I don't know if he's going to win this week, but he's definitely value at plus 5,000.
How dare you call Daniel Berger, a 4-time winner on tour, a long shot? I think he absolutely should be one of the top guys this week. He's my guy this week. Going to what you said about
his guy to win.
He's my guy to win. I think he will.
Go, Matty. Get into it.
Value here. You have so much value. He had a bogey-free round of 865 last week, and right after that round, he told us, hey, 1% better every day, 1% better every day. And guess what? He's been showing that. He saw a little adversity in round 3. He had 4 bogeys and 5 holes on the back 9, and he bounced back from that. Finished the round strong, had a great Sunday, and finished 7th. That adversity and that be able to bounce back, that shows me this guy's back. I loved his comments. I think you hammer. You're confident on Daniel Berger at the number that it is.
Think about the number this way, Ben. No Scheffler, no Schauffele, no Rory, no top whatever it is in the world, and he's still a value pick. I'm not going to sit here and say that Daniel Berger is going to stay that way for the rest of the year or the rest of his career, but you're right. You're not going to see 50-1 as a winner. But this Ben could also be seen as, is he really back, or is he reaching a point in his career where he got injured, he's starting to play better, but really can't recapture that magic that we saw 2-3 years ago?
Well, it's interesting because just to quickly go back to the leaders there, the Hostler and Keith Mitchell scenario. Mm-hmm. Keith Mitchell is at 16 compared to 28 for Bo Hostler because people still think Mitchell can win. He's proven he has been able to win, and they think under the gun he might be able to do it. Hostler's at 28 because he's proven he can't get it done. Uh-huh. This guy can get it done, and I know that one of the major books, we started at plus 5,000. You can still get it if you're quick, but he's into 4,000 in other places.
He's 4,000.
He is moving down. There's money coming for Daniel Berger. So we're not the only ones who think Daniel Berger is potentially on the turnaround. I thought that the fall was going to be big for him at the start of the fall just to prove to himself that he still had it. I think, like Matt said, he showed glimpses of that last week. He's getting confidence. He has no reason to be upset about his back anymore. He's with his old caddy these days, who used to caddy a long time for an Aussie, John Senden. So I know him well, Matty Castle, and he is one of the best in the business. Those two are going to potentially be big this fall. If not this week, I'd still have my eye on Berger right through whatever he plays in the coming weeks because he is, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He used to be one of the guys that was going to be a lock and a long-term player on the President's Cup and Ryder Cup teams. Don't for a second think he doesn't think he can get back to Bethpage next year. He would literally have that in the back of his mind. I can make a run here and get back to the top echelon.
He's back.
I hope so. I mean, it'd be a great story. All right, Benny, no stats, no history at this course. We can't do our normal metrics. Give me your winner and why it's a unique week on the tour.
Harry Hall, there you go. Won a couple of weeks ago, or not, a bit more than a couple of weeks ago on tour. Broke through there. It was awesome to see Harry. And also he's been playing half decent, a couple of top 20s on the DP World Tour to keep his form up. He's under the gun. He putts really well. He's number 2 on tour strokes gained around the green. Where his weakness is, if you want to have him a weakness, is off the tee. But guess what? This is a resort course that no one's played. It's going to be plenty wide. There is black desert out there, lava rock, but it's miles away. You're going to have to absolutely, you're going to have to do a massive duck hook or something to get in trouble. These guys have got plenty of space. I just think Harry Hall is primed for a big 2 weeks. I did this last week where I liked Fishburne last week, knowing that he was going to play well this week. I think Harry Hall's got a big 2 weeks in him. I think he's going to come play well in the desert here. It's similar elevation to Las Vegas, where he has great record in Vegas. I expect him to be well in contention at the Shriners Children's Open as well next week. So, yeah, Harry Hall's my guy.
Here's what I think we can all agree on, since it's such a different week on tour. And stop me when you disagree with me. You want somebody who's been good enough recently, doesn't need to have top 5s and contending at the very, very end on Sundays, good enough recently, and shown that they have been in contention relatively consistently in 2024 from time to time. That's safe to say?
100%. Look, as I said, I'll go. I'm going to give my column a little plug here too, Benny, and the bet's coming out today. Check it out, Golfbet or PGATour.com. When you have a tournament like this, you have to go to different factors, right? We can't look at course history. So what do? Well, we start with current form. So that's a big factor. How are guys playing? Everyone's coming into this new course. So let's get current form in the way. Let's go with guys who we know are comfortable in contention or have won. Hence, for me, Harry Hall recently won, playing well. That's where I'm starting. Then you check the course for like quirks or differences or what might be something that you can compare it to. Well, as I said, we're about 3,000 feet elevation, which is similar to Vegas. So have a look at guys in Vegas. Maybe look at guys at TPC as Scottsdale, because that's a Tom Weiskopf course, right? So look for the course designer comparisons. Figure that out. Check the local talent. I mentioned Fishburne. We'll get to him in a minute. There's a few Utah guys out there. You might want to see which ones may or may not feature.
Well, since you mentioned it, get to it. He's your best bet, well, top 10.
Fishburne, man. He's my best bet of the week. Top 10, 275, I think it is. Look, he's completely at home there in Utah. He's one of the locals. He knows the area. He knows how to play golf on the course. He's going to be motivated to play in front of his mates, in front of his family and friends. So I expect him to have a great tournament. He's also, and he kept this going despite not being fully in contention last week. Of all the people in this field, he has the best strokes gained total over their last 5 starts. He is clear and above the best strokes gained total of everyone in this field in recent form. 3 top 6s in his last 5 starts. I think, maybe the win might bring up a little bit more like stress, if you will. When you're the hometown guy, there's that little bit more pressure. So maybe win might be a little bit too far, but don't be afraid of it. But I really do think he'll be in contention. He'll run that form through.
We've gotten through Benny's picks. We've gotten his long shot, Daniel Berger. We've got his best bet, top 10, Patrick Fishburne. We got his winner, Harry Hall. Matt, let's do your best bet, since we're on the best bets. Have people forgotten about Michael Thorbjornsen?
Yes, they have. And it's all about the young stars in FedEx Cup fall. Ben Everill picked Fishburne, who's a 4-star young star. Thor is a 5-star young star. I'm bullish on Thor. He's a Wesley High, Massachusetts native. I'm a Cape Cod kid. This is my guy. Finally a Massachusetts guy. I like Thor's game, too. I mean, he was T8 last week, so he already cashed the T10. He's a guy that has definitely been forgotten. We're talking about all this young talent. Do not forget about Thor. He was definitely under the radar. We didn't really see a lot of him on coverage. He wasn't really in contention, but a great week that he had. And he's a guy that I can absolutely see being a shining star soon, and that's what FedEx Cup's all about, right? So I'm going with Thor Bjornsson here. Pretty good odds. He's still near the type for top 10, but I like his game. I like where he's at.
Sneaky decent recently, last week, right? Like you said, sort of backdoor, but got some form coming through. So yeah, absolutely a talented player. Like, will not surprise if he pops up even in something bigger next year, whether it's a one-off. Not quite Ludwig Aubert scenario, but potentially be able to do it once rather than 6 times. Like I could see him doing that and continuing his progression. He is one guy we should not sleep on. You're right about that. Matt, can you give me something to argue? I like it better when I get to argue against you.
Hey, argue this. Let's argue my best bet, because I have another theory that I think is going to be underrated for bettors to think about this week. The fall's unpredictable. We know that. Flip a coin on if you think somebody's going to do a top 10, top 20, whatever. I think if you came close with somebody very recently, do not be afraid to go back to them. I'm doing that this week with Seamus Power in the top 10. This is a guy who on the 72nd hole on Sunday, as my top 10, bogeyed to fall out of the top 10. He finished T11 last week with a bogey on the last hole. You're not going to find many consistent players in this field better than Seamus Power. Do not be afraid to go with boring and consistent and guys who you feel like are playing good enough right now. Because for a guy like Power, Matt, you can screech all you want, but it's going to be one or two bounces either way for somebody like that who you know is going to be making the cut.
Yeah, I don't hate the play. I hate the number.
270, right.
Yeah.
But what do you like outside of Thor Bjornsson? That's the problem.
I mean,
I
like digging deep. I like digging real deep. Get like a plus 700 top 10. But Power, I don't hate it. I think it's a good pick. You're riding the current form, which is great. It's just the number. I mean, we were talking about Scotty Scheffler at 300 all year long. Seamus Power at 270 for a top 10. I'd pass on that.
But does anybody want to argue the premise of don't be afraid to go back to the well in the fall with somebody you think's playing good?
I like that. I've done it. I've just done it. I mean, my winner from last week is my top 10 from this week, right? So I think that there's value in it. I think if they're playing well, like I said, that's important. I'm with Matt on the number here, which is, again, brings us back to what you should do in events like this. Look, let's be real. It's a new course. We don't have much there. It's a bunch of players that many people out there don't know or haven't heard of. So, but that gives you the option, though, on a week to spread your units, right? If your unit's X, halve it. And instead of picking 4 guys this week, pick 8. Right, like have a crack across guys that you've heard of, or you might just see one little stat nugget you like, or there might be something that's interesting to you. I feel like this is one of those opportunity weeks where you just get to have a bit more fun, like spread your unit love across, and just cheer home some 70 to 1s or some 50 to 1s or some 100 to 1s. They're out there, right? Like look for those local ties. As I said, look for the guys that are playing well, like you said. Seamus Powell, rather than the top 10, I'd be like maybe he's a guy put a half unit on to win the thing, right? If he's who you like, let's spread and try to get some big numbers. Yeah. And you cover 8 guys, you got something to cheer about all week, hopefully.
You want to throw out names too? Go ahead, Matt.
Perfect segue, because I do not think David Skins is going to win this week. However, plus 8,000 is a perfect cash out opportunity. This guy keeps bumping up. We keep seeing his face. He is a guy that can go insanely low. We saw it last week, and guess what? He fizzled out. This is a guy at plus 8,000. That's a juicy number that comes Saturday. I don't care if he's up 2 on Sunday. Cash out of that ticket, because I do not think he's going to win, but I want to play the odds here, and that's what's so great about cashing out. And that's kind of what Ben was saying about the long odds. Spread some units around. Spread some big long shots. See how they play. If they play great and you trust them to win, great. Keep your ticket. If you don't, play the odds. Pull out and jump on someone else. And I think that's exactly what you should do with David Skins this week, because he's a guy who can show up big in the beginning and even down the line be there, but then fizzle out. Like, he's an older guy. He hasn't been on tour for a while. He's very unproven, but he's shown us time and time again he can score. So this is my long shot with the caveat that I don't think he's going to pull through and actually win it, but I do think you'll get way better odds on him. So get in now, pull out later.
I'd imagine plus 800 for a top 10, I would assume, something like that.
Yeah. I sit here, I look at the outrights, and I love, there are so many guys in that 4,000 to 5,000 range too that are legit chances in my mind, like legit guys like Eric Van Rooyen and like Patton Kazai playing well. I'm trying to bring it up here so I don't miss any names. Obviously, I got Harry Hall in there. Mac Meister is another one who I was on last week. I think we've got Berger, as I said, in that area. Andrew Novak's another one in that area. There are a bunch of guys that if they do come through. Matt McCarty is another one, again, that we talked about last week. Had a reasonable go last week, could easily pop again this week. There are so many in that value, that in that area, that you could have said spread your units, and then if you need to have a chalk option, you can pick one of Mitchell or Hostler if you really think they're going to back up, and then do what Matty said, go to a Skins, an 80 or 100 to 1 shot further out and cover yourself across there, and you're probably going to have some fun riding at home, and you're also going to have a chance, as Matty said, to at least get a few cash outs, because someone there is going to play well for at least a few rounds.
Let me give you another thing to debate before we say goodbye, Ben. I mentioned earlier, how you want to make your picks, guys who've played good enough recently and who have been in contention in 2024. My winner is Ben Griffin because he is fitting that mold to a T for me right now. Okay, throughout 2024, he finished second at the RBC Canadian Open, really close to winning. 4 top 10s on the year, okay, including that one. And a guy who has played well enough in the fall. A 64 on Thursday last week, keep that in mind. So it goes to show he's playing well enough to score low. It's the kind of players where you're going to find a lot of guys at 33-1, 40-1. We've mentioned all these players, a lot of them. Ben Griffin's one of them, right in those range where you want to sprinkle it around because I think he's playing sneakily consistent right now. And you're looking for guys who can go low. He did that last week. That's why I think Ben Griffin's got some serious, call it value at 33-1. But when you're looking at some of these players who haven't been playing well lately, there's another name for you.
I don't mind it. Again, I'll say this to his recent form, his weakness, if you will, has been off the tee. Not bad, just sort of around average. And every other part of his game has been positive, though. It's been in the green. So if this is the resort course I think it's going to be, with a bit of forgiveness off the tee, then Ben Griffin comes right into this. See, there was another guy that's trending well, an old guy, Lucas Glover, right? But he thrives when it's harder off the tee. When other guys are struggling off the tee because he's so accurate, I fear that his form will be sort of swamped because guys who are a little bit more wayward are going to get away with it this week. And Griffin is one of those guys that might be a little more wayward at the moment, but has the approach game, has the short game dialed in, so that makes him a significant chance.
No disagreement on my side. I love Ben Griffin. I picked him as my head-to-head. I'm waiting for his breakout too, Chris. I think he's getting there. He struggled a bit at the end of last season with his 2 missed cuts at the Open and then 3M Open, but he had a T7 at Wyndham, so maybe he's progressing, made the cut into Sanderson. I do like the Ben Griffin play. Hopefully he breaks out soon.
You guys know what this means, right? We're just going to get a Beau Hosler and Keith Mitchell playoff.
There we go.
Bo might know after all.